Some days life feels perfect, other days it just ain't working. The good, the bad, the right, the wrong, and everything. Hey, good evening, everybody, and happy Sunday night from Unlock the Middle. Chris and I are always excited on Sunday evenings because Unlock the Middle gives us an opportunity to stretch our wings across the great nation that we live in and find just amazing authors, educators, just keynote people who just bring a shine to what we do every single day. And you want to know something, Chris? It gets better and better each week. You know, we started this last July. This is number 35 for us. I think it's episode like 90 for us. I don't know how we manage both this and do our regular jobs, but I know we do it after work hours because we kind of have to. But listen, tonight we're streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, and on Twitter. We'd love to have you chime in and tell us where you're from in the comment section before we begin, but we're not going to disappoint tonight. We got another amazing guest star for us. Chris, how are you? Happy Sunday to you.
Hey, Dean, welcome to Unlock the Middle. We do have a great show tonight, Dean. You know, yesterday morning, we had the opportunity to chat with one another and some amazing friends, Joe and Josh from Texas and Florida, flip that respectively, and, talk about leadership topics. Tonight, we get to talk about something that's really important, and the focus and the lens about kids. And that's really what's driving what we do tonight. And our guest, I read the first book that we're going to talk about tonight at an all-night readathon that I was having at a school prior to the school that I'm at now. And that book, Kids Deserve It, was absolutely amazing. I dove into it and I finished it across that evening with the kids, and I used that in some examples of conversations. So I'm pretty fired up and jazzed about where we're going to go tonight, man.
Well, Todd digs into it a little bit deeper. We've crossed culture a few different times. We had Hans Appel on, Paul O'Neill. We talked about what that was all about. But I think the lens we're going to see today is going to be even a little more reflective, a little more refined, which I'm really excited about. So, hey, listen, enough about you and me. Let's bring Todd in because I think it's important to introduce him and get him on the platform. Let's start hearing what he has to say.
Sounds good, man. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to Todd Nesloney. He's the Director of Culture and Strategic Leadership for the Texas Elementary Principals and Supervisors Association, otherwise known as TESPA. He has also served as an award-winning principal of a pre-K through fifth grade campus of over 775 students in a rural town in Texas. He's been recognized by the White House, John C. Maxwell, the Center for Digital Education, National School Board Association, the BAMIs, and more for his work in education and with children. Todd's first book is co-authored, but it's called Kids Deserve It, and I have to tell you, it was a runaway smash. Since then, he has authored stories from Webb, Sparks in the Dark with Travis Crowder, and When Kids Lead with Adam Dalvico. His children's book, Spruce and Lucy, was also released in March of 2020. He hosts the podcast Tell Your Story, and he is very active on social media under the moniker at Ted Ninja Todd. He is passionate about doing whatever it takes for our students and helping others tell their story. And he is our guest tonight on Unlock the Middle's Videocast number 35. Todd, welcome. How are you tonight, my friend?
Hey, I am so thrilled to be here, but I gotta say, I'm kind of upset with both of you that you didn't tell me to wear a shirt with the sports logo today. Because clearly y'all matched and you didn't even invite me in. So I'm kind of annoyed with that, but hey, I'm super pumped to be here regardless.
Well, hey, Todd, let me tell you, this W on my hat and on my shirt, I'm affiliated with an AAU baseball team. I'm a coach for my son. And we just became affiliated with the Worcester Woo Sox, which is the AAA affiliate for the Boston Red Sox, which is wonderful, except I am a New York Yankees fan, but I will wear the Woo Sox logo with great pride every single day.
And I've got my school logo on tonight, and we have such synergy, Chris and I. We just knew that was going to happen. I didn't have to call him. We've been doing this way too long. It's kind of scary. Hey, enough about us. Welcome to our show, man. We're super excited to have you here tonight. Todd, and hey, listen, let's get right into it. I know we gave you a little bit of a bio and a little bit of an introduction. Is there anything we missed that you wanted to add for our audience before we begin?
I mean, I always am so uncomfortable during the bio section because I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so weird to hear people talk about you and stuff that you do. But no, I'm currently serving as the Director of Culture and Strategic Leadership with TEPSA, and I love it. I love what I get to do. They also allow me to travel across the country and speak. And so even though during COVID, I'm doing all that virtually now. But there's that. And then I am married and have 2 kids on the way in July. So going to be a really busy 2021.
Yeah, well, you just wait, because it's a great ride when it all takes place. So very happy for you. Hey, listen, your enthusiasm is palpable. I can just feel it just from talking right here, and a little bit we talked in our pregame. Let's really kind of get into a little bit about culture, your philosophy, your lens on culture, the importance of culture within schools, within, just really making that environment something special for everybody.
It's always been something that has been at the core of who I am, whether I was in the classroom focusing on the culture of my own classroom while I was teaching and getting to know my students and their families and the team that I worked with, but in becoming a principal and having to kind of start a campus over again and combine staffs and figure everything out, culture became even more important. And I was glad that it was something that was so important to me, because it really helped me in what I was doing for the 5 years that I was at that school being a principal. And so, just like you said, I don't believe any organization can work unless the culture's there. And I'm a very firm believer that there is not one person in charge of that culture. A lot of times in education, this conversation stems on the leadership of a campus, which, yeah, it plays a role. But like I always say when I'm doing presentations, the angry cafeteria lady can ruin an entire year for a child. A rude front desk receptionist can make a family never come back to your school again. It's not just one person's role. We all play a part in making sure that campus is the best place that it can be, where people are dying to come into every day.
Yeah, that you talk about. I use the term first impression syndrome. You get one shot. You get one shot to make sure that you can tell your story, and your story better be glowing and shining from every person's viewpoint. And if we don't do that, you're right. It's a huge disservice.
And you're so right though. But it's and it's not a thing of we all have to act like we're perfect or that we all have everything together, because vulnerability is a powerful culture tool as well. And so, allowing people to see that you have those good days, you have those bad days, but as long as your heart's in it and you're coming from a place of love and compassion, you're going to be able to do great things.
100% spot on. I think about, our new families who come to the district, and, we might have a great reputation as a school and as an organization, but our reputation is built upon the first impression that our new families have with us, and we have to develop that and cultivate that like anything else. And as we develop culture, we have to understand and honor voice and perspective. So what I'd love to hear from you, Todd, is a little bit about the idea of student leadership and how you integrate student voice into the everyday administration of a school and a district.
This is something I could literally talk about all day long, because I just love empowering kids and seeing how much better things are when we listen to them instead of when we try to control everything. But in my second book, Stories from Webb, there's a chapter in there called 7 Seconds that talks about the research behind when somebody enters your school, they make a judgment of you and your campus within 7 seconds of entering your campus. And so, typically as adults, we think of what do the adults want to see? Like, we need to make it nice. It needs to be clean. It needs to be welcoming. But I found there were so many times that I was making decisions based on what we as the staff wanted and never taking into consideration what the kids might want. And so some of the things that we did was we started student advisory groups where we met with kids, and I was at a pre-K through 5th grade campus. We had 4-year-olds all the way up to 11 and 12-year-olds on those committees where we would say, what do you think about the front of the school? What does it need? This is an idea some teachers threw out at a meeting. Do y'all like that idea? Would y'all think that that's cool or it's corny? And it was really great feedback for them to say, no, why would you do that? When all the teachers were like, this is the best thing ever. And the kids were like, we're not impressed. And so but also giving them ownership of different spaces around the school. We were having a lot of problems at my school with the 3rd through 5th grade girls' bathroom. And no matter what I did or how much we lectured or threatened, I could not get them to stop writing things on the stalls, much of which were words and phrases I had never heard before becoming a principal. And so I realized, the one way you make people stop destroying things and to take care of it is to give them ownership. make them feel like it's theirs. And so we got a group of girls together and I said, you've got a $150 budget. What do you want to do to this bathroom? And they came back with this whole plan. They needed a full-length mirror with lights. They needed it painted in chevron with these 2 colors, signs above every toilet, and air fresheners with only citrus scents. And so I was like, okay. They stayed in budget. I surprised them over Christmas, redid the bathroom. Guys, they were so amazed that we actually did what they asked. Instead of just, as adults, as educators, we're really bad about asking kids what they think and then never following through. And so they were so impressed that they went and met with every 3rd through 5th grade class on their own to talk about what was going to happen in that girl's bathroom now. And they started a girls' bathroom committee who checked it 3 times a day. I never had to clean anything off the stalls or any of that again because it was their space. Right. They owned it. Even our cafeteria, the way our cafeteria tables used to be lined up were in straight lines. And to me, it felt like prison. And when we talked as a staff, why do we do this? We came to the conclusion that we do it because it's what's easiest for the adults. It's easy for us to walk up and down. It's easy for us to check on kids and tell them who they should be talking to or what direction they should be facing. And it's easy for us telling them when to stand up and dump their trays. But is it what's best for kids? Because sometimes we can do things that are so easy for adults, but make it a painful experience for the kids. And I want to be clear here, too, that I'm not saying we got to do everything the kids want, even at the detriment of the adults. No, that's taking it to the other extreme, people. We got to have a middle ground here. But we asked a group of kids, how would you prefer these tables be set up? And I met with them so that we could talk about fire code and you can't block an exit and things like that. But they came up with this cool new configuration of all the way the tables, and it was like a family sitting at every single space. And the teachers flipped out whenever we changed it. You can't do that. This is like a maze now. Our kids are going to be even louder and crazier. Except that just the opposite happened, because it was more of an inviting place and less of a controlled space. And so as educators, the more we can give kids that freedom and ability, I think it makes your school a really special place, and people can feel that.
Yeah. Well, that's empowerment. And I'll tell you what, amazing things happen, whether you're empowering teachers or students or family members. All of a sudden, things just seem to happen in a really positive way, in a growth manner, I should say, more than anything else. So kudos to you. Hey, let's pivot for a second. Let's talk a little bit about family engagement and the importance of family engagement throughout any school at any time.
This has been really close to my heart when no matter what my role has been in education, because I know the pivotal role that family members play. And I want to stress that when we use the word family, a lot of us who come from generations before have a very stereotypical view of what family is, whether it's, I've got 2 parents, or we've got 1 parent, or we're working with our grandparents. But families now are far more ill-defined than that. Yep. I mean, family can be the neighbor down the street who takes the kids in every single day when they get off the bus. Yep. Family can be the aunt who the kids sleep over at their house because both parents are working 3 jobs. I mean, family is so big now, even like children's ministers and people that, and the cousins and brothers and sisters are all part of this super tight family unit. And in my community, I knew we were not doing a very good job bringing them in. We were doing school very traditionally in the sense of whenever we have events, A, they're going to take place at school, and B, they're going to have an educational focus, because that's the reason we need the parents there. We got to teach them how to do this math, or we got to show them how to get involved with their kids' reading homework, or whatever it was. And it took me stepping back and realizing the parents need to know that we truly have compassion and concern for them more than just the educational side. And so that began us looking at what events can we hold as a school that have nothing to do at all with education. Because a lot of the parents that were not getting involved and weren't super academically present was not because of a job that we were or weren't doing. It was because of previous things that had happened in their life that had made them not like school or not like coming on campus or feeling inferior to the people that were on campus. And so we started going out to the community and doing events at apartment complexes and community centers, and not making everyone come to the school all the time. And events that we were doing at school, we started doing things that had nothing to do with the educational side. Because anybody who's been in education for any amount of time can tell you 50% of education is teaching their brain. The other 50% is teaching their heart. And it's not a more or less for either one of those, I don't believe. I believe that it's an equal thing. And so whether that made us start doing dinner with a gentleman every year, or tea with a lady, or our block parties where we got inflatables and a DJ and just played music for 2 or 3 hours one night behind our school at our playground, and all the families came and just hung out. There was no ulterior motives, no volunteer sign-up sheet. It was just as a school, we're here to serve your hearts as much as we are here to serve your brains.
Man, I want to shift from hitting that heart. I want to slide over to the brain a little bit, because I think that in both Dean and my organization, our schools, we've got a great balance that struck between building family and community, but also building the mind and connecting that to the heart. And one of the most important elemental foundations is literacy. So when we talk about literacy and how it really bridges all stratospheres of families and learners, love to hear a little bit about your approach to literacy and what some beliefs are in there.
It's so funny how much I have fallen in love with English language arts and literacy and the research behind it, because I was a math teacher the entire time I was in the classroom.
I'll say that. That's Chris's bailiwick.
And I loved it. And I only loved it because I hated math in school. So I became a math teacher so that I could prove that math could be fun. I could work with struggling kids. And that's why I fell in love with it. Don't ask me to do any high school math. It stops at elementary and middle school. But I love the math side. And so when I became a principal, I knew I've got to become more well-rounded. I've got to really understand the literacy side of things. And as I began to dive into that world, I was just blown away with all that I was missing, thinking I was just a math teacher and being proud of that. And now I'm like, everybody is a reading teacher. I don't care what title you have on your ID badge or your website or whatever, you are a reading teacher because it's the foundation of everything. And then I started telling adults and kids, I don't believe at all, that there is this term non-reader. I don't believe there's somebody who is a non-reader. I believe there are people who haven't found the book that breaks their heart. When you find the book that breaks your heart, the book you can't put down and can't wait to go share with somebody else, then you're hooked. And you can't ever say you're not a reader again, because you finally, and for some people, that takes a long time to find that book. That one book that's meant for them. But, we really invested in classroom libraries. We really invested in the school library. That's the heart of your campus. You cannot forget about that. We really helped try to grow our librarian in areas. We started doing events like the Secret Society of Readers and Book Prom, and we gave away books all the time. Every event that we did had piles of books that we were donating to people just for showing up at the event. I mean, we pumped in all Title I money into doing a buy one, get one book fair with Scholastic, and ended up doing, until 2 years ago when another school beat me, but we ended up doing the largest book fair in Scholastic's history, where we flooded our community with 14,000 books in 4 days, where every kid got $100 to go buy whatever books they wanted to at the book fair. I mean, there's so many ways that you can really help adults and kids fall in love with reading, that sometimes the only thing standing in the way is us. We make more excuses than anything else.
If you have not seen the excitement of kids going to a book fair, now do it with $100. Oh my gosh, they're like running around. It's insane, but it's so cool, because you know what? Then they're moving towards a direction that they are interested in. And if they find something they're interested in, they're more apt to read. You're absolutely correct. I totally agree with you with that, 100%.
Well, and it's important to note too that sometimes the trigger in that kid may be the opportunity for them to pick their own book. I was shocked at the amount of students who had never been allowed to pick their own book without any input from anybody else. And when they got to do that, that was a prized treasure possession.
How about Josh calling you out right here? Okay.
Of course, Josh has to say something on there. I've been waiting to see if he was going to make some kind of snide comment.
I'm going back to Evan. Okay, Evan's a little easier on you. I like that. Okay?
I love Evan. No, yeah, Josh is right. I definitely don't know if I could pick my favorite. I even tell people now, I don't have a favorite book. I have a favorite right now book. That's what I have. So.
Well, you want to talk about favorite books. Now, let me just step back for a second. I'm going to toss this out there like the grenade in the room, okay? Kids deserve it. Now I'm backing off. I haven't read it yet. I'm going to buy it from you tonight when we're done, okay? Because I'm going to make sure I get an autographed copy. But I want to hear from your perspective. What's it all about? What does it entail? And now I'm done talking. Go.
Kids Deserve It was my very first book, and it was a book I co-wrote, and that was a book that I never thought would be out there. I never thought I'd ever have anything published. I wrote little blogs and stuff for myself, and the fact that people were willing to pay money to read something I had to say just still blows my mind to this day when somebody will bring something up from the book, and I'm like, oh, we really did sell a copy? Like, that really did happen? And so, but it's just a book filled with encouragement, heart, and easy takeaway ideas. Like, you're going to read it and you're go, oh, well, I don't know why I didn't think of that. Or, oh, I've been doing that. And it's kind of like that inspiration to go, I'm on the right track. Like, I'm doing stuff other people are doing too. And so it was a fun book that has really short, digestible chapters. So even if you've only got 2 minutes of time to spare, great. You can still feel accomplished by getting through a chapter, and Kids Deserve It.
I loved it when I read it. And again, I remember vividly sitting down at the all-night readathon that we were doing in my school. And this was the new book. I had just gotten it off Amazon. And I flew through it. I finished it by like midnight when we took breaks and we're doing the reading. And I was thinking exactly that. And now I get to ask you a question about another book title, Todd. And I'm going to preface this by saying, and I have not read this next title, but when I was a kid in the living room in my home, lying under a blanket, I was able to identify sparks that were flying off of my hair through static electricity. Sparks in the Dark. The title just intrigues me. Talk to us a little bit about that.
That book, Travis and I wrote almost the entire book before we even had a title, because we could just not figure out what really expressed what we were trying to say throughout the book. And one day it just came to me and I threw it out to him and I was like, what we're trying to do with kids and adults through this book is light a fire inside of them. Well, that fire has to start with a spark. And it's that whole idea of the darkest room can be lit up with the tiniest spark. And so that was the idea behind that title, is that, when we're talking about building a love of reading and writing into children and adults, all it takes is a little spark within the dark to light it up and get the flame going.
What was your favorite thing about Sparks in the Dark? What was your takeaway?
Honestly, I think my favorite thing about writing that book was, out of every book that I've written, that is one that I would have never seen myself writing. Because like I said, I was a math teacher in the classroom. So I would have seen myself writing like a math focused book, even though I began this huge love and hunger for language arts and literacy and everything like that. Being able to write with a secondary teacher as well from my elementary school brain, that was powerful for me. But yeah, I think that's a book that I was like, I have a literacy book out there and I'm so dang proud of it too.
Well, you've accomplished quite a bit, because we're not finished yet. Our next question that I have for you is, and this is near and dear to both Chris and I and our hearts, because we're hands-on principals. We want kids to be successful. We want kids to lead the way. So talk a little bit to us about when kids lead. What inspired you there? Because I can tell just from the energy and the enthusiasm in your voice earlier, I know where this is going, but tell the world about it, please.
Well, out of all the books I've written, Stories from Web is still my favorite, just because of how personal that book got to be for so many people. But if I had to pick a second favorite, it probably, at least right now, is When Kids Lead. Just because of the fact that that book was so much fun to write with Adam DeVico. I love Adam DeVico. He and I are great friends. And, we started the Get Your Lead On conference, which is a branch off of Get Your Teach On. And we really want to just grow leaders. And as we were doing that conference all over the country before this stupid pandemic hit, and we were getting to meet people, the thing kept coming up of people saying, we just love talking about this. We love that we're talking about all these leadership skills. And Adam and I kept thinking, but where are the kids? Because it's fun to grow adult leaders, but it's way more fun to grow student leaders. And when we just, through all of our conversations, realized that at both of our schools, we did a lot of really cool, what we saw as innovative things and ways to empower students and grow them, whether they were introverts or extroverts, because that's why DeVico and I work so well together, is he's an extreme extrovert and I'm an extreme introvert. And so we play really well off each other. But it was fun just get to put all those ideas. And then it was really weird releasing a book during a pandemic. But at the same time, a lot of the stuff in the book, Adam and I were like, a lot of this could be really cool to try to use during these really difficult times in empowering kids in their voices when they feel so closed off or different, or things are never going back to normal. Like, this is something we can use during this time.
So now I'm gonna challenge you a little bit, okay? That's a great overview of the book. Give me some meat and potato. Give me something that really sticks with you, because that's what I want to hear about.
So there's two things that I love in the book. The first one is I talk about it in all my set presentations, I feel like, but I love the social media interns. And so we've got a whole how-to in there about how at my school, my students, I had a group of fifth graders called social media interns who ran all the social media for the whole school. Our Snapchat, our Instagram, our Facebook, our Twitter, our Periscope, they ran it all. And I had to train kids the first year that I started doing it, but then the next 4 years, I never trained a kid because they trained each other. And there's a whole process we used, but it was such a neat thing to watch the story of our school be told every single day. And I didn't have to do a thing. Kids got to run with it. And that's a great way to get parents involved, is to put their kids in charge of it. Then they're more likely to show up and want to take part in it. And then the other part that we talk about in the book that I really love is our student greeters and our student ambassadors. And both Adam's campus and mine, every single classroom, every single kid was taught the acronym SPECIAL. And those letters stand for things like shake hands, posture, eye contact, conversation. Every kid was taught that. We taught them how to shake hands, how to initiate a conversation, how they should be holding their body language. And then every single classroom had a classroom greeter. So no matter who came in the room, what adult, doesn't matter if it was central office, the principal, or another teacher down the hall, the moment they walk in that room, instruction never stops. But that person doesn't get ignored either, because we've got two sets of teachers. We've got teacher A, who says, I don't care who comes in this room, you watch me the whole time, we've got something going on here. And then you've got teacher B, who when anybody walks in the room, everything stops. Oh, how you doing? How can I help you? What do you need? And then you just lost every single kid in the room. Well, we felt like there was a great middle ground, and the middle ground is the greeter, because you don't want to ignore the person who came in the room. That's rude. And you don't want to stop everything, because that's not smart educational practice. And so we knew that you can keep teaching as a teacher. That greeter knows it's their job. They get up, go right away, shake the hand, introduce themselves, tell the person what they're learning about, and invite them to come in and join the classroom. And it was such a powerful thing to watch that take place on a campus. The adults ate it up. Like, people were coming to visit our campus from central office just to go into a pre-K room and be greeted by a 4-year-old who could have an entire conversation with you like a 16-year-old. And so, and that works no matter what grade you're working with, all the way up through high school. Some of these things that I talk about, sometimes people like to pigeonhole me into, oh, you're the elementary guy. And I have to remind them, who makes something elementary or secondary? We do. We stop so many times things. And it's like, I've worked with high school students before. I have met 18-year-olds who will work harder for that scratch and sniff sticker than my 5-year-olds ever would. I have seen juniors and seniors wear more extravagant costumes to a pep rally than I can get my kids to on Halloween. So don't tell me they're elementary and that's too little for them. It's it's all in how we sell it. We are professional used car salesmen, and the kids are only going to buy what we sell them.
What we sell them and what they really think that we want them to buy. And, listening to their voice is really key. Hey, I saw an item that you posted out on Twitter today, and I'm gonna put you on the spot just a little bit. I'm super psyched that I saw that through that news article, the Q&A that was held for you your senior year, that you were able to achieve what you wanted for yourself. You became an educator. You followed in mom's and other family members and big influences footsteps. But one of the questions a number of questions stood out to me, Todd. One question was, you disliked homework. How did that impact your practice as an educator and a leader? And what is your suggestion for educators out there who might be listening to us tonight relative to homework?
Oh, you are just making me drop a bomb here, aren't you? Okay, so I'm going to make 50% of the people hate me right now, but I don't even care, because this is something that I speak about often, and that is, my first year teaching, I totally went the stereotype way. I did the book, I had homework, and I realized after the first year, I started thinking, I don't know if education's for me, because I'm not having fun doing this. Like, this isn't why I got into teaching, was to teach to a test and to get them to do homework and all that stuff we see on movies and the way we were raised. And I thought, can I do things differently? And I had heard about this thing called the flipped classroom. I heard about project-based learning, and I was like, dove head first in and was like, I can do this. And that allowed me the opportunity to essentially eliminate homework and increase test scores, which is why people tell me all the time, oh, well, they need the practice. Well, they need this or that. And I'm like, get to know your kids. Because when it comes to homework, if you get to know your kids, half of your kids that aren't doing their homework aren't doing your homework because they go home and have to raise their siblings and cook dinner and go and take care of this. Or they may get locked out of the house as soon as they get home and they're not allowed in until dinner. Or they may not have had a pencil that worked, or things like that. Or they may not have gotten any sleep the night before because they spent the whole night in the hospital with a family member. It's like, why do we do homework? Every teacher tells you additional practice. And my comeback to that is, if you can't have a kid for 8 hours of the day and send them home to do more practice, are you freaking kidding me? And I'm mainly talking to elementary people here, because elementary people, there is zero research that shows that homework is valuable in an elementary child's life. There is some research for secondary students, but it's very specific and targeted homework with real world implications where you see value. But if you're sending homework home for a kid to practice, for me, I hated homework because I sucked at math. I struggled through class. It was frustrating. And then you sent me home and made me hate the subject even more because I had nobody at home who could help me, because my mom didn't know how to do that math. And I'm sitting there going, I'm going to fail. I hate this. I'm mad at my teacher. And it's all because of homework that never helped me get any better at what I was trying to do. All it did was check a box that as teachers, we should be providing homework. Now, one caveat I will say, I always, even as a principal, had the expectation that every single person on my campus, child and adult, should be reading at least 15 minutes a night. Because I don't believe that is homework. I believe that is a life skill. And for those adults who are going to listen and watch this and tell me, well, how do you prepare them for real life without homework? I'm going to say something that might be heard to sound a little rude, but it really doesn't matter to me. And that is, if the only way you can prepare a child for real life is by assigning homework, then you need some education on better ways to prepare kids for real life. Because there is a lot more ways to prepare for real life than assigning homework, or to teach kids responsibility than assigning homework. But that's an easy answer and an easy out, so people run to that all the time. But I am very much, especially in elementary, anti-homework, because I watched my scores rise when I got rid of it.
I love it, Todd. Thank you.
You molded and shaped the learning opportunity for kids. And if you do that, results take care of themselves. And it's absolutely phenomenal. And I'm glad that you are open enough to talk and speak your mind on it, because a lot of people can't understand or comprehend that it's time to reimagine and redefine what we do and how we teach kids. And if COVID-19 has taught us anything whatsoever, it's okay. We can all adjust. Oh, and guess what happens when we adjust? We still thrive. Okay.
Well, and people always tell me, well, I was raised that way and I turned out just fine.
Yeah.
And I love when they say that, because depending on their generation, I can say, well, weren't you also raised without air conditioning and you turned out just fine, but you want to get rid of your air conditioning now? Or weren't you raised like me on dial-up, but now we love our 4G, 5G, and high speed? You want to go back to dial-up because we turned out just fine? It's like, no, you don't get to pick and choose just because it fits your argument of you turned out just fine. We can do it better, and we must.
Well, we're in a school. Our business is all about kids. If kids are going home and saying school's not fun, guess what we have to start to think about? Why isn't it fun? I get learning isn't always easy.
Yep.
We understand that. That's part of a process. But the process of learning needs to be suitable and age appropriate for the kids. End of story. As far as I'm concerned, I think that's fantastic. Hey, where can people find your books? This is your time to shine right now.
So all of my books are on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. You can go to my website, toddnesloney.com. And I also, on my website, on my books page, there's links to autograph copies. So some people are like, I don't want Amazon, I want you to sign it. There's a link on my website that has for autograph copies that goes to my wife's website because she runs the business, so I can easily have my own little page on there. And so you can check it out there.
That's awesome.
Thanks so much, Chris.
Hey, Todd, I really appreciated the time tonight. I've got to tell you, the concepts that you worked with your colleague on bringing to us with Kids Deserve It back, a number of years ago now, really did influence some of the approaches and practices and complemented some of the approaches and practices of people that I associate my circle with and that I've actually done on my own. So thank you very, very much. On behalf of Dean and I, thanks for joining us tonight on Unlock the Middle as we kind of dove in a little bit, talk a little bit about culture, student voice, and how to really put the spotlight on what is most important. Hey, everybody out there in Unlock the Middle Land, it's Sunday night. We're coming up on 38 minutes with Todd Nesloney. Check him out, toddnesloney.com. Check him out on Twitter as well, so that way we can go ahead and continue to expand and extend our PLN. His Twitter tag is at TechNinjaTodd. Be sure to follow up and be well, everybody. Middle Marvels coming at you on Tuesday night, and another great show, Navigating Leadership, next Saturday. Be well, be better, and keep on chugging.